Dreaming about teaming up with a superhero? Heartbroken about the latest comic death? Do you find your conversations always turning to Marvel? Then welcome Marvelites to your therapy session. Join your hosts as we explore the realms of the Marvel Universe, taking you into new insights, movie reviews, and debates. Here, we won't try to cure any obsessions, but fuel them, because the world is better nerdy. Welcome to your Marvel Therapy Group.
And hello again, listeners, and welcome to another episode of Marvel Therapy Group. This is episode 36. So yeah, we're chugging right along with these things. I'm your host, Jack, and with me are...
Conor.
And Brian.
Joe is away. He is...
He's in our hearts.
Yeah, he's in our hearts.
He's not dead. That's...
He's in our hearts.
We have to make sure.
Yeah, make sure you don't start getting sent flowers.
I mean, if you want to send us flowers, go ahead. That'd be very nice. So yeah, we're running the podcast today, and today we're going to be talking about sort of the cartoons and the shows we used to watch before there was a different superhero property out every other day. We got Brian here. He's going to talk to us a little bit about what it was like growing up before Marvel was as big as it is today.
Back in the day.
Back in the day.
Way back in the day. It was, when I was, got into the whole comic books thing, it was the 60s. And there wasn't a lot. Like Jack said, that there wasn't any movies every other month. It was, it was very limited. What there was a cartoon in the 60s called The Avengers. And it had Captain America, Spider-Man, Thor, Iron Man, Hulk, and Namor. Those were the five main characters. And it was a sort of like it wasn't great, but it was all we had. It was like a stop-action cartoon type of thing, animated.
Like the animation, it would just be that thing where it was like they would just take the panel like from the comic.
No, it was actually made for TV. They obviously drew it. It's just that the introduction to the show actually was more animated than the show episodes themselves. And you would always wait for your favorite character to come on. They showed Thor an awful lot. I remember that. And I don't know why. We were waiting for Captain America and Iron Man. My favorite, even way back when, was Spider-Man. It was, it wasn't great, and it was also on a channel that we had around here. And again, this is back in the '60s, so we don't have the channel variations and availability that you guys have today. Countless number. We had just a handful of stations. And this one happened to be on a station that was difficult to get. So it was catch as catch can. You have to play with the antennas, get the cartoon, and hope it held up for an entire episode. But if I remember correctly, it was usually back-to-back episodes. But we loved it. We absolutely loved it.
So back-to-back episodes, you'd see every character.
You would see eventually, you would have like Thor one episode and Hulk. Hulk was like the second most, if I remember correctly, the second most character portrayed. And he would always show his origin repeatedly. So we got to know Bruce Banner rather well.
Was this the Thor where it was like he was a doctor by day and he had like a magic stick?
Yes, it was, yes. He had this magic stick that he would slam into the ground. And he would magically and triumphantly and awesomely become Thor. He would be a whole different character than I don't even remember what his name was as a human, human version.
Yeah, I think they have an Easter egg for it in like the first Thor movie. The Thirst 4 movie.
Do they really?
Yeah, I think it's there's one scene where they're trying to like bail him out of SHIELD custody after he tries to take the hammer back and he can't lift it.
Yeah.
And I think they create like a fake identity for him somehow, and like the name is the doctor's
I didn't catch
name.
That. I'll have to watch it again, I guess.
So his name wasn't originally Bruce Banner?
Thor.
No.
Oh, Thor.
Yeah.
Oh, Thor.
Thor.
My bird.
No, it's always been Bruce Banner for the Hulk. So
And
that wasn't a very long period of time that those cartoons were on. Like a year or two. Then they went away. Then we had nothing. Then they got a little older. You get into the early 70s, and you would be into today's comic book shows. Today you got the big conventions. Back then you didn't. You had the local comic book stores getting together and creating these little shows. There used to be the next town over was a popular one. It was always a big one, and there was one down in the Hartford area that was popular. Springfield. But they would be constantly all the time. So now everybody does the big ones, and that's what everybody waits for.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I like the old days because there was always something to go to. You know, you didn't have to wait for that yearly one like in Boston and New York. You would go to like May. Oh, let's go down to this one. You know, July. Let's go to this one. And it was great. And at that time there were a lot of little businesses for comic books. You know, today you have your specialty shops to go to.
Mm-hmm.
Then there was a lot of small businesses to go to hunt down your comic books. So there was a large variety of comic books to go for, if that's what you were into.
What was the one they used to go to? Windsor Locks? Where Bear's Barbecue is now?
Oh, in that area, yeah, there used to be a Holiday Inn there, and that was a popular. Yeah, these were always held in hotels, in conference centers, in their conference rooms. But that was a popular one. That was always, for some reason, that was always a big one. They would have that one, and that one would be followed up with a record show from small business people would bring in their old records, and you could hunt through those. Yeah, those were the good old days.
What do you remember being sort of like the first big like Marvel movie or show that you actually got like really excited about?
Oh, it was. Oh, that was. I wasn't into the Hulk because I never cared for the Hulk. So the Hulk of the '70s was.
Oh yeah, the TV show.
Yeah, I didn't care for it too much. Wonder Woman was good. Wonder Woman. I know we're off. These are DC.
Yeah, we can do DC.
Wonder Woman. But the one I got cared for, and it didn't last long. There was a Spider-Man show.
Live action?
Live action, yeah. That was...
Really?
Yeah. I can't remember the year. Early 80s?
What was...
I can't remember exactly when it was.
Who's the actor? It was an unknown?
That was unknown.
Oh.
Yeah. And then there was the first Flash TV show, which was good. Of course, back then you didn't have the comic book support.
Mm-hmm.
You know, in those days, people, you know, being a comic book fan was looked at as being really, really geeky, and that was looked down upon in those days, sort of. It didn't get anywhere near the popularity of the new Flash, the recent Flash show that's on the CW. But the actor Ship comes on that show periodically.
Yeah, he's on the Flash now. He's
right, Wesley
Jay
Shipp.
Garrick.
Yeah, right.
Oh, he was the original Flash?
Yeah, he was
That's pretty
in the TV show. That only lasted a season. I'm not even sure that was canceled because of ratings. I think it was canceled because of budget reasons.
Were you a fan of the Batman TV show growing up?
Oh yes. That is a classic, boy. I tell you. I talked about the Avengers cartoon, but the Batman show. Oh, that was so awesome! I never missed an episode. Of course, then you had to catch the episodes, otherwise, you missed it. If you missed it, you missed it. In those days. I caught every episode, and it's now on YouTube TV, their channel.
Streaming
Oh
somewhere.
yeah, it's somewhere. Before you couldn't find it anywhere.
Yeah, you couldn't find it, right?
We found not good copies. Remember?
Right. Oh yeah, they were. Yeah.
I just think it's funny. Oh, because remember we watched the movie one time with Josh?
Oh yeah, the movie is great.
And it's just like the fact that they painted over Cesar Romero's mustache because he refused to shave it off. And you can clearly tell that there's a mustache under there.
Yeah.
And actually, even though it's pretty corny, it is actually pretty. It is pretty entertaining.
It's like they knew exactly what kind of movie they were making.
Well, even my dad said in the '60s that they knew that it was corny. Like they knew what they were making when they made it.
Right. But it also fits the time.
Yeah.
You know, the mid to late '60s were that's what it represented really well. That and other shows of the time, like the Monkees, represented the pop culture of that era really nicely.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I think that's part of why so many people, especially of my age group, look back with love.
Well, no, even my dad, who's not really a comic book fan at all, he remembers the Batman TV show.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I would get excited with each episode because at the end of each episode they would show you what would be coming next week.
Yeah.
You know, and I get really excited about some of them, and I go up and tell my parents who couldn't be in the room at the same time while I watched that show. Go up and tell them, and for some reason they weren't as excited as I was.
Did you have a favorite villain?
I've always liked the Penguin. But my favorite one was the Riddler. Frank Gorshin's version of the Riddler was awesome. It's still, I think it's still great today.
That's what my dad says too. He's a big fan of the Riddler.
Oh yeah, I think it's still he did great.
Well, I feel like I feel like Jim Carrey's Riddler is close to his.
It's in
the same ballpark.
Yeah, and I think when that movie was out, he said he was influenced by Frank Gorshin's version of the Riddler.
Because he kind of moves in a quirky way, and his characters. Because the suit's pretty much similar, except I think he wears a suit versus the unitard.
Well, sometimes I remember he would wear the suit with the green question marks, and I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, that looks really cool."
Yeah.
And then other times he'd be wearing like the full body leotard.
Yeah,
and I'd be
yeah,
like,
he did mean that.
that's not a great look.
But I think that if I remember correctly back then, that was a tip of the hat to Frank Gorshin's version of the Riddler, which is and the series premiered with the Riddler.
And I think in that movie too, maybe it's not in that movie, but there's supposed to be a scene I think it's in that movie, or one of those earlier Batmans.
On the wharf?
Not the wharf. Oh, the wharf. But there's a scene where he goes into. Oh no, I think it is that movie where he goes back into a closet or something like that. And if you stop it, they have all the old costumes from that vintage show from the '60s, from the Adam West one.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think it's that movie. You're supposed to you can pause it, and then they have the penguin the glasses, and they have the cane. I think the original cane, the costumes in there. I think it's that movie. But you're supposed to be able to pause it, and you can see all the old. It's kind of Easter eggs for the original series.
Oh, wow.
That's cool.
I could be wrong, but I think it's that movie.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And that show only lasted 3 years, and then it was on NBC, I think.
But didn't they have a lot of episodes?
Oh,
there was 50 or 60 episodes per, or 50
It wasn't that
episodes.
much. It was 30-something episodes back then. 30
Yeah.
something episodes, just not for that show, but any show back then.
Well, even now you don't really get a lot of shows that are 30
No,
episodes.
you don't. It was 30-something episodes for a season, so there's a bunch of episodes out there. But when the series ended, I was distraught. Then I found out years later that was because then the network couldn't decide what to do with the show. So they hem and they hawed about whether to bring it back for another season, and the fans wanted it back. Then by the time the network decided they were going to bring it back, it was too late because the set has already been taken down. So there was nothing to go back to.
Yeah.
Ooh.
So that was the end of that.
I think most of that cast is dead now, right? Besides Catwoman?
I think Burt Ward is still alive.
Oh, no,
isn't he?
Burt
Burt Ward Robin is still alive.
But you can't, even my dad said if you saw him in the street today, you wouldn't even recognize it was Burt Ward. I guess he's fat now, right?
Yeah, he's
Large and in charge.
Little
Sorry, Burt Ward, if you're watching this.
a little larger than 50 years ago or so.
Yeah, but majority of them are, I think, right? At least in most of them. Right? No, Miss Kick-Ass still alive, right?
I think
Catwoman?
I think a couple of the Catwoman, one or two of the Catwomen are still alive. There were 3 different actresses who played that part.
Really? I thought it was just one.
No, there were 3 different ones. There was Eartha Kitt, Julie Newmar, and I can't remember who the third one was. She was a former Miss America.
I think she was the one from the movie, right?
Yes.
No, I don't know what her name is.
Yes.
Julie Newmar.
It was.
Oh, I didn't know Vincent Price was in that
Yeah,
show.
Vincent Price was
yeah.
in it. There was a lot of good actors that, and that was another thing you look back on, is that there was a lot of good actors willing to take those parts of the bad guys.
My dad said that was like the thing to do if you were like a famous actor. He wanted to be a bad guy on the Batman
Yeah,
show.
yeah. Absolutely.
Cliff Robertson was in it too.
Cliff Robertson was in it. Roddy McDowell,
Victor Buono.
Victor Bono.
That's how you say his name.
Bono.
There's a U in it.
Bono. Maybe it was Bono. Yeah, there was a lot of.
Caesar Romero.
Some of them were like 1 or 2 shot deals.
Yeah.
They weren't the repetitive characters. Villains like Riddler, Penguin, Joker, and some of them they made up just for the TV show.
Tarantula.
I don't remember.
Don Barry.
Some of them were just made up for the TV show, and they weren't in the comics at that time. There was one character by Roddy McDowell called the Bookworm.
Bookworm. There's a guy in here casted as Fat Man.
There was another actor/director, George Saunders. He played, I think it was Mr. Freeze.
Glynis Johns was in it too, from Mary Poppins.
Yeah, there was a lot of them.
I remember there's a really good joke in like the Lego Batman movie where it's the first scene where like the Joker is gathered like all of Batman's villains. He's like listing them off like, oh, Riddler, Catwoman, Two-Face, and he starts going into like really like random obscure villains like Polka Dot Man, Kite Man.
Yeah.
And I think one guy is like, okay, are you making some of those up? He's like, nope, they're all real. Probably worth the Google.
Yeah.
But I think he was like listing off like the one-off villains from the TV show along with like everybody else.
Yep.
There was a King Tut.
There was a King Tut. That was Victor Buono.
Yeah.
It was a King Tut kind of character, yeah. So, that was made up for the show. I remember that.
But he played actually like King Tut.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. It was.
They were so creative back then.
Well, that is pretty creative.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Because, Jack's father said, they had a lot of requests for actors that wanted to be on the show.
Yeah.
So they had to create this small army of supervillains.
Or wasn't even the thing like some actors, there'd be those scenes where Batman and Robin like scaling a building and like someone would open a window. They'd be like, oh, Batman, what are you doing here?
Yep.
And they'd be like somebody famous.
Yep. Oh, yeah. That was a lot of good stuff.
What network picked that up or had that show?
I can't remember if it was NBC or ABC. I can't remember.
I think it was ABC and
Was it?
NBC
Yeah.
tried to renew it.
Yeah, okay, that sounds about right. Yeah, but I was so upset when it was canceled and it wasn't coming back. But really, that's what we had. It wasn't as dynamic as it is today. So that's why I've loved this stretch run of superhero characters in the movies, or even on TV now.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. The second season of that show had 60 episodes.
60?
Well, yeah. Well,
Wow.
because they stopped it like halfway through. Well, because it ended in 66, and then it... Oh, well, they go on that break for like Christmas.
Yep.
And then came back. That was 60. That second season was 60 episodes.
Oh, wow.
Well, I feel like it's interesting because it's like going back to sort of not really having superhero stuff all the time. I feel like Connor and I, like, we're kind of like the last generation that's still kind of...
We're spoiled.
Yeah, we were on the tail end of like the starting. Like, I remember as a kid there wasn't that much superhero stuff.
Right.
It kind of died out in the 90s.
Yeah, it did. But
You get Scooby-Doo.
But
There's always Scooby-Doo.
Yeah.
But today, if you're into that, it's a good time.
Mm-hmm.
It really is a good time. And I also read on social media, especially the actors who aren't involved in this stuff. They're tired of. They can't wait for the comic book genre to end.
There's a lot of people who are waiting for this genre to end.
But everything. I mean, it's a new genre. I mean, the cowboys had the westerns.
Yeah.
Had their time back in the day. War movies had their time. Musicals had their time.
Cheesy 90s sitcoms.
So this is, This is their time. This is the superhero time. Marvel, DC. Although DC doesn't do it as well as Marvel.
Well,
Marvel
it's
Disney.
interesting because I remember growing up, it was like DC was all the stuff that I thought was really cool.
Right.
Like, there wasn't really that much Marvel stuff. Like I remember the two things that really like I was a big fan of as a kid was the Justice League cartoon and the Teen Titans cartoon.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
yeah.
some of the best cartoons were from the DC, even Batman, which Mark Hamill voiced the Joker for.
And then he was in
Forever.
the video
Yeah.
games too.
Is he?
Yeah, he played the Joker in the video games. Well, voiced the Joker in the video games.
For a long run, he was the voice of the Joker.
Yeah, well, there was a bunch of things that he was in that I had no idea that he was the Joker. But even now, I feel like some of the animated stuff that they come out with is better. I feel like Marvel hasn't really come out with anything totally animated. Well, because I feel like DC tries to do non-animated, and they're like, well, we'll just stick with what we know.
Yeah.
Because we watched that one, remember that Batman one, it was like a year ago?
Oh yeah,
The Lamplight one?
Gaslight.
The gas, that was good.
That was good.
That one looked cool.
And then we watched the Killing Joke one, that was good
That
too.
was good too. Yeah.
I think Mark Hamill retired from doing the Joker voice.
Yeah. The one when they're making it for DVD,
Yeah.
a lot of those are really good.
Yeah.
Of course, Marvel just waiting for to release their channel,
Oh yeah, the Disney Plus.
Disney Plus. They were just waiting for that to release.
It's cheap. Did you see
A
that?
lot
It was
of
like $8.
stuff.
Yeah.
Is it?
It's a start, anyways. It'll go up like Netflix does, obviously.
I
but-
think originally the plan is to try to undercut Netflix and like get a bunch of subscribers
I mean, they'll,
right off
well,
the
that's
bat.
what
they're
yeah.
going to.
That's what
All
they're-
those people who watch like Jessica Jones and Luke Cage or whatever the other ones were.
Yeah, I've read that they set their sights on knocking out Netflix.
They're also what I read the article, I don't know if it's true, but they're supposed to have like you can get any Disney movie that they ever made is supposed to be on there.
Really?
Yeah, they're supposed to get like even the obscure ones that no one like saw once in the '90s and stuff like that, which would be really cool. Because it bring back all those old '90s movies, animated movies that we watched when we were growing up.
That's all you need.
It is true. That's what. Why do you think that they're redoing the movies now? With Lion King and Aladdin. Not original.
Yeah,
Have you
they're gonna
seen
be
Aladdin
filling up
yet?
their channel.
Yeah. Huh?
Have you seen Aladdin yet?
No, I've seen bits and pieces of it. I don't like musicals. And it's very awkward to me when all of a sudden you're like me and you will talk and then all of a sudden we just start dancing and singing for no reason. I don't know. I
You
never
guys stopped doing that?
Yeah. Well, I never even watched
We went
those.
through a phase, but
I never even watched those. There were certain ones that I didn't even watch. Like I don't even remember watching Aladdin when I was a little kid.
I remember
There's just
watching
certain ones I wasn't into.
I remember watching that one. I remember that was like one of the. My grandma actually had like the VHS of
Oh,
Aladdin, so
yeah.
it's like you'd plug it in like whenever we were up there.
Oh yeah, the VH. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was those. What else did I like? I liked Snow White.
Oh, the classic.
Yeah. Well, I'm asking you because you
Yeah, I know.
remember
No,
more
you
than I
did.
do.
Yeah, there's the popular ones. I remember. I'm just thinking back about the comic book show that I used to go to. That's how I got a lot of my Spider-Man back issues through those shows.
Mm-hmm.
You know, back in those days, and back then you could get some of the older ones for a reasonable price. You're talking many years later, so it'd be a lot more for some of those issues. But if I read one of those older issues, back issues, I actually like them more than what today's comic books are. There's a simplicity and an innocence about them that because they were written for a certain age group, and at that time I fit into that age group, and even now when I'm older, I still
Fit into that age group.
fit into the age group.
Yeah.
I still like it. It was a great time to pump up my Spider-Man collection.
Do you remember? You probably don't remember the first comic book you ever read, but do you remember one that sticks out from like the first how many ever ones you read in the
Well, I
beginning?
used to read a wide variety. Okay, it just wasn't the superhero comic books.
Yeah.
I loved Superman. I loved The Flash. I loved Batman. I loved Spider-Man. But there was other ones that I liked too. There was called Beetle Bailey, which is mostly known as a newspaper comic strip. I read Archie.
Oh yeah.
And all those comic books, which still is amazing.
Don't they still make Archie?
Yeah, it's amazing to me that it's as popular as it is still.
Oh, plus the Riverdale show is
Plus
really
the
popular.
Yeah, which is totally different from the comic book grew up watching.
Oh, I didn't even know that was a comic book.
Yeah.
Really?
Oh yeah.
It's like a dark, edgy take on Archie.
It's it is.
Riverdale
is.
is yeah. It's not.
Is it supposed to be based off of Lucy?
The characters. The characters are the Archie characters. But the stories are, like Jack said, a darker edge to them. And I lost my train of thought now.
I'm talking about the first couple comic books.
Oh yeah. Then there was another one that I enjoyed. It was a funny comic book called Sad Sack about this guy who was a character who was in the army.
His name is Sad Sack.
That was his name. That was the name. Sad Sack. Yep.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah. So I read a variety. I would read. I had somebody who was into the. We would share comic books.
Yeah.
Family, cousins, and friends, and that. But I was also I was into the science fiction, Twilight Zone type of comic books.
Yeah.
They were a genre where you would. It would be like it would be one story this month, and next month it would be a different story. It wasn't carried through.
Did you ever read any like the murder mystery comics?
They weren't really a thing.
No.
Back then. They were really.
Joe would be so disappointed.
Yeah. Well, no, because their home murder mysteries came around when you guys.
90s?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, it wasn't really a thing.
What other comic books did you read? What's one famous comic that a lot of people like but you don't really care for?
Current day or?
Well, back in the day, that was like really big. Where you're like, not my thing.
Oh, that was. I don't know. I don't think.
I was gonna say, I feel like you like all the major ones.
I liked all the. Yeah, I did at that time. You know.
Did you ever read Mad?
Oh yeah, I was a big Mad magazine fan.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't think that's still. Is it still? I don't know.
I think it's still a thing.
Marvel owns that.
Oh, Mad?
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Marvel owns that now, and I don't know how frequently that comes out. I think it's regular.
Is it?
But I'm not sure. Oh yeah, back in the '70s, I was I loved Mad magazine. That was another thing I would pick up at these shops, these little shops that people owned. I would get issues of Mad magazine because it was already because it's usually a current story.
Yeah.
Current. Each issue would be take whatever was popular in pop culture at the time, and it was always relevant, and it was.
I didn't realize that it was a relevant magazine. I thought they just did some.
Oh yeah, well they would make their idea. They were a parody.
Yeah.
They made fun of, maybe it was a movie.
Yeah.
One of the famous issues from back in the '70s was when they made fun of the original Star Wars movie. They would make that's what they did. They poked fun at current society, political, pop culture, things like that. I loved it. The friends we had, we would get them, we'd swap them, trade them, and catch up on issues. We were just kids, so we couldn't afford to buy every single issue.
Yeah.
But always seemed that somebody had an issue you didn't have, and you'd trade them, and it was fun. It was good stuff. And there was another one, also not as popular, called Cracked. It was along the same lines. He just didn't do it as well as
Mad.
Mad's. Do you know Mad's? The logo, the guy.
Yeah. The redhead.
Alfred E. Newman.
Yeah.
His face. Yeah. That was Cracked. Didn't have that kind of anchor or logo.
He was a redhead, right?
Yeah, he was.
He didn't. Was that based off an actual person?
It probably was. I don't know who that would be. I don't know, but it was interesting.
What about you, Connor? What was some of the stuff you grew up that watching, you were like, oh, superheroes are cool.
I don't think that I really was into the superheroes, right? Back then, like...
No.
We did, well, like you said, when we grew up, it was kind of dead in the 90s.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was nothing. You guys were born in 95. Or you were in 95.
No, I'm 95.
He's 95.
Right. Right, yeah.
I mean, the only animated thing I can remember that I really liked was Land Before Time. And that's not a Marvel thing, but that's the one thing I remember watching. Jordan liked that too.
Right. That's why we had the movies.
Yeah.
'Cause he had them before you had them.
Yeah, I don't remember. I think the only reason why I got into it was because he liked them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I remember going to the Batman movies with him, seeing the Batman. Well, not the Michael Keaton ones, obviously, but like the Christian Bale ones.
Yeah.
I remember going to the movie theater and seeing that with him.
Well, when the first Spider-Man movie came out back in
2001? 2, yeah.
It must have been 2002, because it wasn't like they started marketing their stuff like right when 9/11 happened.
Right.
And
there was a scene in that movie that they were supposed to battle in between the Twin Towers.
Right.
And they had to take it out.
Right. Exactly. Oh, yeah, that's right. So when that movie came out, it was very exciting. So then I broke out my collection of Spider-Man comic books and showed them to Conor and his brother, because they were both interested in going to see the movie at the time. So I shared with them my collection at that time. Jordan didn't really latch on to that.
This is funny. I saw this picture today.
But
it's true.
Conor did, Read that.
It says, no matter how many actors play Spider-Man, no one can match this Peter Parker ever. We miss you, Toby. It's the picture of Tobey Maguire. And it's true. Like, they can... I mean, I don't hate Tom Holland. Actually, I didn't really hate Andrew Garfield either. But anytime I think of Spider-Man, I think of that. I think of Tobey Maguire and that Spider-Man suit.
Apparently, like the Into the Spider-Verse movie, they really wanted Tobey Maguire to voice like the older Spider-Man.
Did you do it?
No, he didn't do it.
No. He's not in much anymore. I don't think he's acting that often either. I don't know what he's
doing.
But yeah, it must have... I don't remember Spider-Man as much, but I definitely remember going and seeing Batman. Actually, let's go farther back. I remember watching the original Hulk. That really bad one.
Oh, that like the 2003 one?
Yeah, I remember going to see that.
Yeah, right.
Because I remember it was me, you, Jordan, and then we went with Matt Lavoie. We were the only ones in the theater.
It was bad.
Yeah, we were like running up and down the aisles. I remember that.
Yeah, it wasn't good. It was like they waited for a whole half of the movie before you actually saw the Hulk.
Yeah.
But they teased him.
Yeah.
That you would see him for the first half. It was awful. It just got all dragged out. And
it was weird. It was supposed to be like he was some science experiment or something like that. I remember that, and then he got like... Says it's the gas that turned him into the Hulk or something like that. That's probably the first one I remember. Is going to see that movie.
I prefer not to remember that one. As many people, I'm sure. Did you see that one, Jack?
No, I never have.
Yeah, that's okay. You didn't miss anything.
But Batman is one I remember most vividly. But I remember bits and pieces of that Hulk movie. But yeah, I mean, I really wasn't. The only reason I got into it is I never read the comics, but I go to the shows with my dad all the time. When we go to the one that we have over in East Windsor.
Mm-hmm.
That's the one, and then it's cool just to see, like, even if you're not interested in that stuff, just to see the vintage stuff. Like some of that stuff is like in mint condition in the same packaging, and it's actually it is pretty cool. Yeah, but that's the only thing. I don't remember reading any comic books and stuff like that.
What about you, Jack? When did you start reading the comic books?
I don't think I really read the comic books a lot. I think I started to try to latch on to reading the comic books like once the first couple Marvel movies started coming out. Mm-hmm. So like the first Thor, the first Captain America, the first Iron Man. But yeah, before that, no, I was really more of a DC guy just because of like Justice League and Teen Titans.
Right, yeah. And you can get, some of that stuff you can still watch on Netflix.
Yeah.
There's a broadcast on there. And there's an old from the 40s. And it used to be on Netflix. I haven't checked in a while if it's back. But it was Superman. cartoon. It was only on it was like 2 seasons. It was from when it was in the movies, in the movie theaters. That's when they showed it.
Oh, you're in between the movies?
Yeah, and it was really, really well done for that time. Surprisingly good quality.
Yeah.
And I didn't get to finish it when they pulled it out a couple years ago. I should check and see if it's been brought back.
I think I've seen those. I remember one time I got like a DVD of like Superman cartoons from like I think like the Cracker Barrel store. It was just like those old cartoons where it'd be like like Superman goes and fights. Yeah, like Superman goes and fights a hurricane or something.
This one was from the 40s, and he would find back in those days. The superheroes would fight. There wasn't always usually some kind of supervillain per se. It would be your common criminal that they would fight after: kidnappers, bank robbers, people like that. No, it's not on. It's not on.
It's not on what?
Netflix.
They really should find a way to fix this, but we're too far into the episode at this point.
What is it? Just keep...
my computer keeps like going into sleep mode, and then I have to type in the password again. So that's what you're hearing if you hear some clicks.
Yeah, it's the timer thing. You can shut it off or you can delay it, so it's not that.
We're too far into the episode at this point.
Yeah. Well, no, now you know for future reference. Yeah, the only animated thing I remember really into was Land Before Time. Scooby-Doo. Do you remember watching that?
Which one?
The Scooby-Doo? The original series?
Yeah, I wasn't into it as much as my brother and sister.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, well, they were, yeah. You were a little older by then. You were like 10. Right? 11. Yeah, you were like 11.
Yeah, when did it premiere?
I think it was like 69 was the first year.
Yeah, I would have been probably about 11 or now, so.
I think I've told this to Joe. I'm like, since you and him are such big Scooby-Doo fans, I'm always like, man, we're like one episode away from just becoming a Scooby-Doo podcast.
I mean, there's a lot of people. Scooby-Doo, you were never exposed to the right one. You were exposed to the 60s like I was because of Cartoon Network and my dad, but like, you can't watch any of the things that were post the 60s besides the non-animated movies. Like, those cartoons are bad. They're really bad. There's so many of them, they're just not good. Because you can't beat that animation. Like, when you start doing like the 3D animation, like it's weird. It's weird. They're supposed to be making a new one.
New Scooby-Doo movie?
Yeah, it was supposed to be non-animated, but now it's animated. I was telling my dad that those original movies that we watched were supposed to be adult movies. They were cut. They were like, I guess they like originally swore in them, and they were stuff like that, and they were saying adult themes. But I guess when the director saw the final footage, he's like, no, we're gonna make this a kids movie, and that's why they didn't do so good. Because I mean, by the time those movies came out, people who watched them were like my dad's age, grew up watching them, and not a lot of kids watched the Scooby-Doo movies. So it's like, it's like working when the movie theater I work at. We were supposed to. They didn't know if they were going to get Child's Play, the new Chucky movie, and then we were going to get Toy Story at the same time. So don't send people to the wrong movie
make
theater.
Sure you know which theater those movies are playing.
It's not a good match.
No,
not a good match.
That's ill. That's bad timing.
I want the movie about the toys. Technically both of them.
Yeah, they were going to be rude to us. We were going to send them into the wrong theater. But
that is a Toy Story, ma'am. You can't be mad at us.
Yeah. But it's like, even like at the movie theater I work at, we have a bunch of stuff. People donate stuff all the time. You get like movie passes. They'll donate stuff for auctions and stuff. They just built a bunch of tables. And it's like they're big into comic books there and stuff like that. So.
Wow.
Cool. Was there anything else you guys wanted to add before we wrap up today?
No.
I think that's it.
I think we're it.
All right. Well, as always, thanks again for tuning in to Marvel Therapy Group. If you like what you hear, you hate what you hear, you're neutral about what you hear, send us a comment. We'd love to hear from you. We're on social media at Marvel Therapy Group. Just find us on iTunes, Podbean. I think we're on Spotify now. So yeah, until next time. Thanks for listening.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's Marvel Therapy Group, where together we can work through our comic thoughts and learn to live beside them. Views expressed are of the host only and do not reflect Marvel Studios or comics in any way. Hosts are in no way qualified to provide therapy. This is simply the name of the podcast. This has been another Marvel Therapy Group session.